Welcome to the Dope Dad Podcast. This is an unscripted journey for those who are invested in parenting. There's no judgment, there's no BS, just honest conversation about what it really means to be a dad today. It's raw, it's real, and it's unapologetically dope. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. You are tuned in to another episode of the Dope Dad Podcast. I'm your host, OJ. We're out here in Mesa, Arizona. Shout out Podwork Studio, my producer, Bill. Appreciate you, brother. Today's going to be a huge episode for me. I know I say that every single time, but that's because I believe it. I got a really cool guest with me today. I brought another dope dad on the show. And this is important to me, man, not only because this person has earned my respect. He's a huge impact on my life. I love the way that he parents. I love the way that he gets down in his personal life. He's just a big inspiration for me, man, a very close friend, and he's family. I brought my brother-in-law, Mike Donnelly, who is married to my wife's younger sister, man. Mike Donnelly, what's up, brother?
Hey, man, happy to be here.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate you coming on the show, man. I know it wasn't an easy commitment for you, man. I brought you out here. I feel like every time I bring somebody on the show, I'm like, yo, come out. It's going to be awesome. Fucking 9 a.m, way away from where you live. So,
hey, you had me yesterday when you were like, I'll be there at 7:45, remember? And I was like, oh, okay, let's can it. Never mind.
Yeah,
and you're like, no, actually 8:45. And I'm like, hey, I'm probably the only construction guy that's not a morning person.
For sure, dude. Yeah, I know I got lost in my timing right there. But, you know, dude, a 45-minute drive, man, for you to get up early, to commit to coming out here, man, chopping it up about parenting and helping your boy out, man, and get an opportunity to kind of talk about your family, man. It's huge. It's important to me. And from the jump, man, like what I was just saying to the viewers and the listeners, man, like you're younger than me by probably 10 years, maybe 12 years.
Yeah, close to that.
And dude, it's crazy, man. You are so like you're after it, bro. You're ambitious, man. You got passion, you got drive, you got integrity. Like immediately, like I connected with you, you know what I mean, on some personal shit. You're from the East Coast, I'm from the West Coast, but we had similar like upbringings, you know, kind of, you know, chaotic, you know, troubled youth, just kind of running amok and doing destruction and damage. But here we are, like, you know, well into our family lives, trying to get it, you know what I mean? We're passionate, we work hard, you know, we play hard, our family's first, man. We try to invite our family into everything that we're doing. I don't know, man, like I'm always inspired by you because there's a lot of people who are probably your age and a little bit younger who just don't have that work ethic and that drive and that go out and get it. I mean, dude, you're an independent business owner, which is huge, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, dude, self-made business, owned and operated, family owned and operated here in Arizona. And you got 2 kids, one of which is working with you. Oh yeah, which is a huge deal, man. So talk a little bit, I guess, about the family, man. Like who's at the house? Who do you got?
So yeah, I mean, obviously, me and Nora kind of head up everything. I always make a joke and say that she's like the brains behind the operation, and I just swing the hammer. You know,
I'm not going to dispute that.
Kind of how it goes. You know, we actually were talking about it the other day when we first started business. I mean, maybe it's just like because I'm old school or whatever you want to call it. But when we first started business and she started taking over like some of the admin duties and stuff like that, she goes like, where's your spreadsheets? Where's your stuff? I had like the money that people owed me written in a Post-it note, like stuck on my computer. And, you know,
here's my wallet. There's a bunch of info in there.
Yeah, it was like just receipts crumpled up into accordions and things like that, you know? So, I mean, you know, it was a little bit of a transition, but I mean, I definitely couldn't have done it without her. And then like you were saying, within the last, it's probably been about 2 years, if not a little longer now, that Nico, her son from her first marriage, has been working with us, which he's been an amazing asset to our company. I mean, right now, I mean, you want to talk about people that are young and hungry and getting after it. I mean, for being 17 years old, he already makes more money than I did when I was, you know, probably only a few years ago, you know. For sure. And I mean, he's just a great kid, you know, way more level-headed than I was when I was 17, that's for sure.
I was thinking about that on the ride here.
Yeah, I mean, you know, just the difference in where you're at as a person in comparison to where he's at now. I mean, light years away, you know. He not only is he just working for me, I mean, he actually runs a crew. He manages the payroll for a group of guys and everything like that. He basically is like a superintendent for all intensive purposes. So, I mean, to be in that level in this industry at that age is, I mean, really amazing that we're able to to depend on him so much. I mean, you know, just recently when, I mean, you know, obviously, but I was out of town taking some trainings and everything like that for the insurance programs that we're trying to get on. And I mean, I basically had Nico running everything while I was out of town, you know, and for him to be able to take on that responsibility. And I mean, if somebody handed me like a stack of $5,000 and said, hey, this is for payroll, I mean, you know where I'd be with that, and it wouldn't be paying payroll. You know?
Nope. On the corner or gambling.
Yeah, or something dumb, you know, for sure. They made a dumb decision with that, you know. So
at 17, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know how much an ounce costs nowadays, but I'd probably be looking for an ounce.
I'd be doing something, you know. So I mean, it was pretty. It's been pretty cool, and then obviously me and Nora together then have Michaela, our daughter, who is 8 now, which you know, even that is kind of a trip in and of itself to be a daughter dad daughter.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's magic, bro. I was thinking about that too, like on the ride over here, having a girl, having multiple girls, and you, a girl.
Yeah.
I feel like somebody now like gave me like a cheat code, like unlocked my visibility to the like inside of women. And I'm like, man, this is fucking crazy. It's such a cool, different perspective, right? Like all the things that I did growing up, all the like, you know, friendships that I had and all the people that I was like hanging out with, and, you know, like, dude, girls that I did dirty, you know what I mean? I'm like, man, like I was a piece of shit, dude. Like looking back, I'm like, man, this is actual insight as to how I, you know, acted and behaved. And I'm like, man, now I wish I would have done things, you know, differently in my past. But also I'm like, man, this is like, it's a blessing to have girls because it's such a different perspective. It's totally like made me a little bit more delicate and a little more mindful of like how I step and how I treat and how I speak, you know, the people that are around me, man.
For me, I mean, it's definitely shaped the way I am as a person. I mean, I guess that's like the way you have to think about it. Like you said, is, you know, would you want your daughter to meet you when you were that age?
Dude,
you know what I mean? And,
and
you know, and my answer has always been no, absolutely freaking not. You know what I mean? No way. You know, so I have to actually change how I am and how I'm interacting with her because you know, I say the same thing about Nico. You want your kids to be strong like you want them to be independent, but you don't want them to go through what you went through to have to get there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's a fine line, you know.
It's totally true. Yeah. So when you and Nora got together, how old was Nico?
Well, I mean, I guess it's a fine line if you want to talk about like what.
Just throw a number out there.
Yeah, I mean, so when I met Nico, he was 6.
Gotcha.
You know, just about to turn 7, and then I think when you want to call it like we were like officially dating, you know, is some just a bit after his 7th birthday.
Gotcha.
So
you jumped in there. I mean, so you were like feet first in this relationship. I remember, you know, you coming around the family and stuff, which was awesome, dude. Like having another white guy in the family, man. It was like, when everybody's speaking Spanish and nobody knows what's going on, we're like, what's up, bro? You want to crush these tamales and hang out over here?
Yeah, exactly.
I think we were both probably still smoking cigarettes at the time too.
Oh yeah, oh man, yeah. That's how long ago it was. Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, that's wild. So, I mean, you've been assuming a father role for Nico for 10 years, bro. Mm-hmm. You know, you've been his dad for a decade, man.
Yeah.
I've watched his growth. You know, when you talk about him being reliable at work and the fact that you can count on him and he's displaying integrity and kind of, you know, he's passionate about the role.
Yeah.
He's responsible. He's like a lot of these attributes that you and I didn't even possess at that age.
Yeah.
That came from somewhere. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like a child isn't hardwired with those fundamental skills to be successful or to display integrity. Like, he's taught that.
Yeah.
Right? Like he sees that. He's emulating your behaviors and Nora's behaviors, right? Like he wants to duplicate what he sees because people aren't what we want them to be. They are what they see, right?
Yeah.
And so if he sees these behaviors from you guys, then obviously like he's going to kind of duplicate those as well. I mean, what does that mean to you, man, knowing that you had a part in and who he is as a man?
Well, again, it's the same thing that I said about Michaela, and I mean, being that father figure to Nico and kind of like falling into that role accidentally, almost, you know, really forced me to like grow up and make myself accountable. You know, all of a sudden you realize that your actions and the way that you behave affect somebody else, and not just like your mom's going to be mad at you, you know what I mean, or something like that, or you know, you and your girl are going to have a fight. I mean, there's a little person that looks up to you and cares about what you do, and they're watching every move. You know, I mean, like you said, is I have to think a little bit of it is. And I don't want to like, you know, toot my own horn or anything, but there's definitely a little bit of like a nature versus nurture kind of thing. And I do believe that the way that me and Nora, you know, have raised Nico and now raising Michaela, shaped him into a different person than maybe he would have been in another situation, maybe, you know.
Yeah, man.
You know, I remember when he was really little. I mean, you know, especially going through that. I mean, I was only maybe a little bit older than him when my parents split up, you know, so it's an awkward time you're going through. You're not really sure, like, there's a guy dating your mom. What do you call him, you know? And I remember him like going through a phase where he was like trying to call me dad and not like really sure if I was supposed to be like his dad, but I don't want to replace that figure, you know what I mean? But I also want to be there as somebody that he can count on. And I do remember that, him looking up to me when I was working for another company before we started on our own, and they give you like a company cell phone. And he thought that was so awesome that I had like 2 cell phones, that he's like, man, I want to like have a truck and 2 cell phones like when I grow up, you know what I mean? And I was like, man, like that's like, it really made me realize like this little person's like looking up to me, if that makes sense. So I have to be something worth looking up to, if that makes sense. So I mean, even if maybe there was some times when I was pretty young too. I mean, when me and Nora got together, I mean, I was only 21 years old. So I mean, it kind of forced me to grow up and get my shit together, you know, so to speak. So
do you remember the first time that he called you dad?
No, I don't remember the first time, but I remember like the period where it was going through, and me and Nora had sat down and talked about it, and I'm like, well, you know, I'm not his dad, obviously, you know what I mean? But I'd love to be looked at like a father figure by him, and now I refer to him as my son. I don't differentiate. I mean, unfortunately, you know, just the way that things fell. I mean, his dad is not in his life at all. You know, which is his loss, I guess, you know.
100% his loss.
But
and I would have to say his dad is definitely in his life, bro. Like, that's you, man.
Yeah.
Your dad, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You remember the way that made you feel when he called you dad?
Yeah, I mean, well, at first, like I said, I mean, it feels weird because, I mean, I'll be honest. I always tell Nora this, that if I didn't meet her and Nico, I probably still wouldn't have kids right now. I think I always said that growing up, you know, again, coming from like divorced parents and, you know, blended families and all that kind of stuff. You don't want to put your kids through that shit. I'm like, yeah, I'd rather just not even deal with it. You know what I mean? I always like was pretty much like on my own, a lone wolf. I would just kind of like travel around and do different stuff, and, you know, lived in a bunch of different places and couch hopping and doing different stuff like that. Like, how can I possibly like live a life that's, you know, stationary and somebody can depend on me, kind of thing?
Be responsible for another human and provide stability.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, that's the crazy part, is because once I did meet her and we got more serious, and then I became involved in Nico's life, I was like, wow, like, I can actually be a good dad. Like, this is something that I could do, you know? And not only that, but like, it came easy to me. I felt like, wow, like, it's so awesome dealing with Nico. I mean, honestly, too, he was just a great kid. You know, growing up, he was super easy to deal with. You know, we would just sit down, and it's like having a little homie, too. I mean, at the end of the day, we would like, I showed him like his first Xbox, and we would play video games together. And, you know, I'm like driving the car, and he's doing drive-bys in Grand Theft Auto and stuff like that. So that was awesome to have like a little friend, and, you know, to have somebody to connect to. And, you know, especially before Michaela was born, it would always be kind of like, hey, we're doing guy stuff, you know what I mean? Because we're kind of like outnumbering you, Nora, sorry, you know, so, hey, we're going to go to the park and play football. We're going to do some other stuff, you know, so that was always awesome.
You know, dude, I always wondered, because there's a part of me that always wondered, like, what it would be like having a son, right? Yeah. Like, you know, a mini version of you, or like, you know, a little kid that's interested in the same shit that I'm interested in, right? And, you know, Carradine and I connect on like some rap, you know, G and I connect on like, you know, some art and stuff like that. And then Krisha and I connect with just like kicking it, dude. She's just fun to be around and like hanging out and playing games and stuff. But I had never really considered what it would be like having a boy, that you guys do a bunch of boy stuff together. And I wonder if that's how like Tom girls are created, in the sense that like, you know, a dad is like, yo, I want to do sports stuff. And I know that you might not be into this, but come on, like, you're going to learn how to play baseball or softball or soccer or whatever the case may be, you know what I mean? So I don't know, I just had like this crazy like epiphany. Like, I wonder if that's how that all comes to be is because you want that companionship, right? Like that camaraderie is so cool, man. And it's so fun to watch a kid light up when you expose them to like really cool shit or like a new way of doing things or new, we're going hiking or we're going driving, teaching a kid to drive, man, is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's fun, dude. It's creative. You know, it's like, it's outstanding and it's terrifying. I remember Carrot bending the corner at like 45 miles an hour, man, in my 4Runner. I'm like, slow down, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, Nico took a while to come out of his shell with the driving, luckily. I mean, but.
I wonder if Michaela is going to be a good driver, bro. She seems like she's going to be wanting a sports car, bro. She seems like the type that's going to want like something fast.
That's the funny thing, right? Is talk about polar opposites, right? Yeah. So, I mean, going back on what I was just saying about how what an easy kid Nico was dealing with growing up, what a level-headed. I mean, he never had like tantrums. He never like, freaked out or anything like that. I mean, have a little issues like here and there at school, not doing home. I mean, but like nothing in comparison to that you have with some kids, On the flip side, it is like now I have Michaela, who is like we call her the dictator of the house. She rules the house with an iron fist. And like what a more difficult approach it is to be like that parent of a daughter, like you were saying, it gives you a whole different perspective too, because you get to like enjoy the the sweetness of having a daughter and like her calling you daddy and cuddling up to you and being your little princess and everything like that. But then you also have like the the emotional instability of a little woman growing up in your house. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. I feel like I know. Yeah. That's funny. So you got big ass dogs. You got 4 big dogs, right?
Oh yeah. Yep. Uh-huh.
So 2 of them are pit bull kind of blended dogs. And then you've got 2 German Shepherd-ish kind of blended dogs, which all of them are what, like 80 to 100 pounds approximately?
Yeah. I mean, they're not supposed to be. Probably the girls are on a little bit on the hefty side,
It's all good, man.
Yeah.
And how is she with the dogs?
Oh my God. I mean, she's like the Caesar Milan, like the dog whisperer. She's in there. I mean, she has no fear of like animals at all. I mean, it's pretty awesome that we were able to like give her that experience so young. Because I mean, now you see her, I mean, every time she sees like somebody walking like a Rottweiler, she doesn't care. She like wants to run up to it and pet it. And I'm like, hey, let's ask the people first and make sure that he's okay, but I mean, it's kind of funny because, a little background, I guess, is that at that age when me and Nora first got together and Nico was maybe 7, 8 years old, we had gotten Django, and Django was our first dog. He's a German Shepherd mix, and Nico and Django were like, we used to call them the puppy brothers because they would just like play nonstop. They would like fight each other. He would be like kicking a soccer ball like from 2 inches away at the dog's head, and then the dog would be like ripping his shirt. And I mean, they were just like inseparable. But at the end of the day, like they would be sleeping together in bed. And we used to keep Django in like a little cage in our apartment when he was a puppy, and he would cry and cry and cry. And at night, Nico would sneak in, and we would tell him, you have to keep him in the crate, but he would like let him out, and they would sleep together and stuff. Dope. So now because we got Roxy and Nacho, which are like similar in age, and Michaela's right around that age too, where she was 7, 8 years old when she first got them. It's almost like watching like the same progression recreate again over. Yeah. And it's pretty awesome. I mean, just like a kid with their dog is like such an organic thing to watch, and just them playing together and just how much they love her and protect her. You know, I mean, I never worry about anything because I just see her.
Dude, that kid's untouchable.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The 4 big ass dogs at the house, man, and she's just like the ringleader, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's cool. Did you have dogs growing up?
Yeah. I mean, I've never had this many dogs, but when I was younger, I had a German Shepherd mix, like when I was pretty young, and then I had a Dutch Shepherd as I was older, which my stepdad trained and everything. But I mean, dogs have always been a pretty big part of my life, and
I love dogs, man.
Yeah, not a cat person. I mean, no offense to cat people, but
Heard. Yeah, same.
Yeah.
My mom had cats. I was raised with dogs. I had dogs like through my young adult life, and now we have 3 dogs. And my wife has never raised with dogs, and so like watching her fall in love with the possibilities of like the friendship and the camaraderie and just I don't know, man. Like, we're not worthy of dogs, bro. Like, anybody who owns a dog knows that, you know, they're too good for us, bro.
Didn't you have to break her of that too? Was she was afraid of dogs, huh? Like,
Yeah,
I
she
remember
didn't-
that being.
you know, she didn't
when we
warm up
got
to the
Django.
idea.
When we got Django, I remember her being like, kind of like
It's a big ass dog. You got horses, man.
Yeah,
you got little ponies.
Yeah, I guess
But,
that's true.
You know, we've got little French bulldogs, but those guys are little terrorists too, man. Like, they're pretty obnoxious, man. But again, like, watching the kids with the dogs, and it brings out this light and this joy, man. And just watching that and being a part of that, it's crazy. Like, I remember being a kid getting a puppy, and like how that made me feel. I'm like, oh my god, a new friend. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it was the coolest thing ever. You know, I get to like play with it and hang out and do all this cool stuff. I don't have to feed it. I'm not picking up the shit. You know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that's adult stuff. You know, but I get all the joys of having this new friend, and so like watching my kids feel that joy and seeing that as well. They're just awesome, man. It's pretty magical. I love that.
Yeah. No, I think, you know, it's funny as you were saying that, not worrying about feeding them and picking. Well, we've been doing that. We definitely, I think that was like one thing that we did with Nico, is that we were like, hey, it's going to be like part of your little chores. Make sure you like feed. We're going to, in the morning, you're going to give the dog food and water, and then, you know what I mean? Kind of thing like that. And it's funny, now it's gone full circle, and Michaela helps with that
that's so
in the
cool,
morning.
man.
In the morning, and she always goes, I'm always the one that has to feed them, you know? And Nico's like, you have no idea. Okay. I had to
love
feed
it.
them before you did.
I love it.
Okay.
She's already complaining. She's like,
yeah,
oh.
yeah, she's barely 8 and she's already tired of working, you know, so we'll see. But
That's pretty funny, man. So she's in school?
yeah.
Good?
Yeah. This is a total dad moment, huh? Second grade.
Okay. Yeah. What's school like for her? She love it? Is it social experiment? She struggles? She come home complaining about school, or what is it like?
So she's a social butterfly. She loves the friends. She's a big talker. You know, as far as it goes, like the interactions that she has with the other students are crazy. You know.
Oh, yeah.
You know, big socialite. I mean, she really doesn't like have any fear or any reservations. She goes up to anybody. Like when you go to the store, when we go to the school, we make a joke that she's like the mayor there. You know, you go. I mean, even some of the teachers that are like the fifth grade teachers, like, oh hi Michaela, how you doing? I'm like, how do you know that? Like, you know, what are you doing that the teacher knows you already?
Fifth grade teachers know her name.
Yeah, well, it's funnier because I mean they used to know my name, but it'd be because I was like a bad kid, not because
much
you know
different
because she's just so like awesome and stuff, you know. So. I mean, definitely a cool experience for her. She hates schoolwork though. That's like, I mean, I can definitely identify with her on that. Homework is like a big no-no for her, which I can't even really like, what's the word? I can't really hate on it because when I was a kid, I did not do like almost any homework. I hated doing homework.
Yeah.
I wasn't like a bad student or anything. I would do good on tests, and you know when I did show up to school, I would do all right in school and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But just like that busy work, I mean, sometimes I see her and she'll do like 3 or 4 math problems and she'll bang them out, and she's doing pretty good, like doing multiplication and division. They're getting started on now and stuff, and she doesn't really struggle. She's pretty good at writing and reading and everything, but she just hates it. She's like, I don't get it. If I did 3 problems and I got them all right, why do I have to do 16 more? And I'm like, honestly, I don't know. I really don't know. I really can't like give you a good reason for it. I mean, I'm sure that there's like some reason behind it, but I'm
consistency?
like, yeah, I'm like, yeah. And I'm like trying to not like let on and be like, man, that's so stupid. You know what I mean? You know, I'm trying to like maintain like being a good parent. I'm like, come on, you got to do your homework, like knowing full well that I did not do that shit
It's
like
interesting,
ever.
right? Like the busy bee work.
Oh yeah.
You know, like you just have to do this.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of kids struggle with it because like you, like myself, and potentially like her, I struggle with like authority. I don't like being told what to do. I don't like giving like little tedious tasks and shit. You know what I mean? Like I'll do almost anything that somebody asks me to do, and I'll do almost nothing that I'm told to do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's like just like out of spite because you told me to. Like I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. Like I see it in my kids too, and you know, obviously, like I see it in Michaela, is that like they're very independent. They like their freedom. They like to move about and do things like as they see fit. Like, yo, now it's time. I want to do this, and I'm done doing that. And they're not interested in like explaining themselves or I don't know, just being told what to do. I mean, like I don't know, my kids don't like doing that shit. You know, sometimes I'll come home, they've done all the dishes, they're like doing their laundry, they're just like bumping music and doing their thing. And I'm like, oh my God, what happened here? And there's other times where I'm like, hey, will you do me a favor and empty the dishwasher? And it's like, you know, I'm like, damn, dog, really?
You get your good days and your bad days, you know, definitely for sure. That's for sure.
I don't know. With the schooling thing though, man, like I can empathize with, you know, you got multiple teachers telling you to do multiple different things, and just I don't know. There's something I guess like I
think
it's not very I don't know, it's not very exciting to get tasked with little work and stuff, especially if it's something that you're not passionate about.
Well, I think that's what her biggest issue right now is like the inconsistency of it, because she's been going obviously, through a couple grades. She was in the same school for like pre-K, so she did pre-K, kindergarten, first grade. Now she's doing second grade or whatever. The teacher that she had last year was like pretty liberal and like did not care almost about anything, and she did not give any homework, and they would like make applesauce and like learn about apples in that way, and like they had like really like it was like really like fun and cool curriculum. The other teacher that she has this year is a little bit more stiffer and by the book, and it's like a packet of homework that they're doing every week and stuff. So it's like going from like that environment and then coming into a much more structured school environment. I mean, I can't blame her, because I kind of hated that lame shit when I was going to school too.
Sure, man.
It wasn't my cup of tea. Like I said, I mean, if I wasn't looking out the window, I wasn't even there. Kind of thing.
I'm trying to make some applesauce, bro.
Yeah.
Where's the glue and all the tape, and I want to make something, man. I did like art class though. Art was pretty dope.
Yeah.
You give me an assignment and leave me alone. Let me just kind of do my thing. She drive to school, or you guys drive her to school, or ride the bus, or walk, or what is it?
So right now we're actually in between, just because of like the inconsistency of the unfortunately the way the school system is, and trying to get people to work anywhere is just hard. So they have a bus driver shortage right now, which at least by now they informed us of it, because we had like a week where her bus was showing up like 45 minutes late every day, and we'd be like, where's our kid? And I felt like Liam Neeson from Taken, and I'd start like we have a location, because luckily again, she's pretty independent, and we don't baby her. We give her a cell phone, even though she's only 8 years old, because I want to know where she is. So it has
Dude, it's almost a necessity, right? Like that's how the cell phones came to be for us too, is because there were times where we were like going to Circle K or something. Like I don't want to do the whole gambit. And she's like, I don't want to go. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to pull you out of your pajamas to make you go to the store with me or whatever. But in that short 10-minute span, anything could happen, you know what I mean? And so I need contact. I need something, right? And I want to check locations.
Yeah.
Anyways, not to steal the mic from you or whatever,
No,
but it's funny, because I used to be that parent too, and I was like, dude, I'm not getting my kid a phone. I'm not getting my kid a phone until she's, a teenager. But the reality is, that's not the way life fucking works, man. There's needs outside of that, right? And so you have to kind of conform to, the reality of the needs of the child and the parent, and you're like, hey, I need you to be able to contact me, and I need to be able to contact you when it's necessary. And so society, kind of for the win, man. I'm like, yo, here's a cell phone.
Yeah, like I said, I was kind of like in between those generations. So I remember coming up and having the house phone and stuff like that. But then I remember entering middle school, and cell phones were kind of getting big. And, I think I even had a beeper for a while. That was like, coming up in that generation, and then now seeing like the new generation, like you said, it's pretty much a necessity. There's a lot of places that you go to. I mean, I'm a technological idiot. I mean, when it comes down to it, like I said, I swing a hammer for a living. I have an Android that's like 3 or 4 years old, and before that, the Android I had was like 12 years old. I don't know how to do any of the apps or do anything like that, which is, obviously why Nora and the kids are a big help, with the technological side of the business and stuff. But some of the stuff is like crazy. You go to like a restaurant, some of them don't even have menus. You have to do like a scan to
QR
get the
code.
menu, and I'm like, man, this is like getting out of hand. What do you do if you don't have a smartphone? Just don't eat. You know what I mean?
just guess.
Yeah,
like I'll have a burger.
Yeah, just see what it is.
I'll
surprise me.
Yeah. So jump back real quick to the conversation. So the bus driver is consistently late.
Oh yeah, well, so the guy there's two guys. The guy in the morning is like an older retired gentleman, great guy, really awesome. Every day she comes on the bus, he gives her like a little pound, he waves to me and stuff. Great guy. He's always there on time. If you show up and it's like 8:14 and the bus isn't there, you missed it. You know what I mean? Really consistent kind of guy.
Gotcha.
Unfortunately, he's not the guy that does the bus in the afternoon. And there's like 2 buses that do her whole elementary school. And the last time,
I feel like there was like 10 when I was going to school.
Yeah, again, it's like and I don't know if it's like a wage issue or it's just a people don't want to do that job or what the issue is, but they can't find anybody. The 2 things that happened that I really didn't jive with at all was that they were going and picking the kids up from the elementary school and then also picking the kids up from the middle school and dropping them all off together, which right away I was like, again, I don't know if that's just me, thinking like, that the world's a bad place and shit like that. But I'm like, and I don't want my 8-year-old daughter on a bus with like some 12-year-old, 14-year-old fucking boy. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I don't want any part of that, So immediately after that, I was like, that's it, dude. So she's been doing the bus in the morning just because she has her little friends and she likes it and it's super consistent. I know the guy and he's pretty cool. But yeah, we've been picking her up after school and just kind of like doing half and half. I mean, I want her to be independent. I always took the bus growing up when I was a kid, and I feel like that's like, it's a place where you can get in trouble, but it's also a place where you kind of like form little social circles, and
totally.
you have to kind of have to give your kids that freedom to be themselves and kind of like fuck up on their own if they're gonna, you know what I mean, kind of thing. So I was cool with her taking the bus, but I just wasn't cool with like how inconsistent. She had a little friend too. Her friend is in the same grade as her, but then she has another sister that's like 2 years younger. So maybe like kindergarten or first grade, maybe somewhere in that age. Mm-hmm. And they're on the bus now for like 45 minutes to an hour because they're picking up the middle school. The girl pissed her pants on the bus. Oh. And I'm like, dude, I'm not her parents. So I was pissed off for them though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd be
and one of the days Nora went and found the bus where it was driving around because of the location and like called Michaela and said, get off the bus, at the next stop, and picked her up. And I'm like, luckily you're the one that found her, because I probably would have like entered the bus and started been like, who are you to like take my daughter all around the place? And that's probably like furious, the protective dad shit, you know what I mean?
Not just that, but I mean, if you're supposed to be somewhere with a child under 10 at a certain time and you're not there, yeah, dude, I would start hitting the panic button for sure.
Yeah,
I'm like, the overprotectiveness just fucking kicks in.
Yeah. Well, that's I think we sold a couple of the parents because we took her to like one of her little friends' birthday party and we were all talking about that, and everybody was kind of like on the same page. They're like, what the hell is going on? This is like too much, And now I think a couple of them all have phones or like little what is it, like the Apple AirTag or
the watch that has like 3 phone numbers on it or whatever.
Thank God
those things are, thank God those things are there though, because dude, like I remember being young, not 8, but probably like 11 or 12, and dude, I had like my skateboard and I was getting on like a metro bus back in Seattle and like taking a transfer to another city so I can skate and like doing my thing. Like I feel bad for my mom, dude. Like I put her through hell. It was pretty chaotic. But also like there was something about that independence and being able to explore and kind of do my thing, that definitely like created an element of confidence and like self-pride, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Being able to kind of navigate a city and do your thing, and from New York, man, I'm sure there were like buses, subways.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we used to just be out. I mean, it would be like, you leave when the sun comes up, and you're coming back like after it's dark. You know what I mean? If that, So I mean, I had a pretty like liberal childhood. I mean, I could pretty much do whatever I wanted, and I would just kind of come and go as I pleased. And it wasn't like from any fault of my mom. I mean, once my parents split up, I mean, she was working and doing stuff, so kind of just took advantage that everybody was busy trying to like hold shit down. And I'm like, good luck finding me. I
did that same thing too, man. I definitely. I took advantage of the situation and definitely, took any type of distance as like, oh, this is my freedom papers, man. I'm out, bro. Mm-hmm. I'm gone, school nights and stuff like that. And I never really remember like getting grounded as a kid. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there were times when my mom told me I couldn't do something and I was just kind of a, disrespectful little brat and was just like, yeah, that's not gonna work for me. But I don't remember like, dude, Mars and I have never really like grounded the kids. There's been one situation where I might like restrict some of their access to stuff, but I'm much more like open and honest, man. I have a conversation. I don't feel like, go to your room and like give me the TV it's never really worked for us in our household. It's not something that I've ever really done. Is that something that you guys do with the crib?
Not regularly, I would say, at all. I mean, maybe when there's a couple times, like I said, like when Nico was growing up and it would be like, hey, he has me beat for that. There was one time that him and the little neighbor kid, they were in like 4th grade and they skipped school. And they were supposed to go to school and they just walk. They used to walk there because, again, I mean, as a boy growing up, you get a little bit more freedom than a girl does, just because the way life works. But him and his little friend had skipped school and they were throwing rocks at cars and doing crap like that, which I kind of like resonated with. I'm like, oh, that's cool, man.
Been there.
But so. I remember that time being like, hey man, no Xbox, you know what I mean? Come on, you really fucked this one up, you know what I mean? Kind of thing. And trying to pretend to be mad too, like I hadn't done half, that shit before or whatever. Kind of.
No, I gotta explain to your mom what you did.
But no, I mean, going back to like the grounding thing, there's really like almost no point. The kids don't even go out nowadays. I mean, do your kids want to go anywhere most of the time? Like pretty much no.
Just my oldest, man. she's a social butterfly too, man. Like, and sometimes it's interesting because she'll go on like cycles. She'll just be like, oh, I just want to like chill in my pajamas and like watch this whole entire season of a show in one day, you know? And then she'll like kind of find her way to the room and she'll just like hang out by the door and she's like, are you guys hungry? Do you have like the munchies?
Yeah.
You know, and she'll be poking and prying. I'm like, what's up? She's like, I just want to go somewhere. And so sometimes like she just wants to be out of the house, which I like, man, you know, because I remember being that age too. And I'm like, I'm just going to grab my skate and I'm going to like go to Circle K and, you know, buy some candy or something, hang out, see who's there, you know, because phones and shit didn't exist for me growing up then. And so if you wanted to know where people were at, you just kind of had to like meander about until you ran into somebody and you'd be like, oh, there's somebody. I know them. They're not like the coolest kid, but I'm going to hang out with them because they're out and doing their thing, you know? So it's interesting how like friendships are made and how they are initially, you know, found, because I remember getting on the bus too, man. And sometimes, dude, if you're getting on a bus, bro, and you don't know people, it's weird. Like you have to like kind of look for the eye contact if you can sit next to somebody or something. It's like that Forrest Gump, you know, when they just like scoot over and they're like seats taken. You know, like can't sit here. And so, dude, that's tough, man. And like, dude, like peeing yourself on the bus, bro, like all that shit is like pivotal to a kid's like foundation of how they view themselves, their confidence, and dude, like friendships and stuff like that. I think about that, man. And I was talking to Carradine, and she was talking about her experience at public school, and it was during like the Red for Ed thing, and so tons of teachers were on strike, and so it was always like substitute teachers and stuff, and that was one of the most important things that she remembered from her entire elementary experience was that there was inconsistency with teachers.
Yeah, like, and you never really know what it's going to be. That's like the thing that resonates with the kid. You know what I mean? I mean, that was weird too. I mean, now that was a big thing that Nico had to go through was the whole COVID deal. I mean, I think he was like in the end of middle school and the cusp of like getting into high school, and they had the schools shut down. And you know, I mean, I would see him like in his pajamas, the same ones for like 3 days. You know, I mean, that definitely takes like your motivation away of like getting up and getting ready and doing your hair and like trying to like you know, just that whole like antisocial. I mean, I can't imagine that we would have gone for that when you know, if we were in that generation of kids.
No,
you know?
Dude, I hated that time. It was so awful.
Oh yeah,
honestly, dude, it was awful for the students, it was awful for the teachers, and it was awful for the parents.
Oh yeah, because
if you didn't work from home, bro, you did now. Like you had to, right?
Yeah.
Like if you have 3 kids that are all going to school from home, bro, you have to stay home. I was in charge of like scanning and submitting paperwork and like uploading homework and shit.
Yeah. Now you work for the school.
Oh my God, dude. It was so crazy. And the teachers, obviously, dude, they were miserable. Like I felt bad for them because now they're being asked to do a whole bunch of shit that they don't even necessarily understand and might not get down with. And then the students, man, like that's what you're saying too. Like they didn't get up, they don't get ready, they don't, you know, get presentable. Like part of going to school for me was like, yo, try to match these dope ass shoes with this hoodie. You know, do I got the hat? Like, no, the hat doesn't work. Like, I'll do my hair. My hair sucks. I'll put a backwards, you know, hat on or a beanie or something. So I don't know. There's something about getting dressed up and kind of like getting ready for the day. You know, that consistency, and there's definitely a need for that part of the routine in a youth. You know, growing up and
well, you know, that's so weird. You know, just going back to what we were talking about before about grounding the kids. That's actually what I remember because that's how different the generations are. So that's how we used to ground Nico, is because he actually didn't like going out at all or like doing anything except for like playing video games and being in his room on his computer and doing stuff. We'd be like, now you have to go out like in the backyard and play with the dog and pick the weeds or do something like that. He'd be like, why? I don't want to go outside. It sucks. Like he'd just be like, you just see him like sitting by the brick wall in the back, just like, oh man, outside blows, like this is terrible.
So in our kids' defense, bro, we live in Arizona. It's hot as shit here.
Well, no, I'm not putting the kid out. I'm not gonna be like, hey, go outside.
No, but I'm saying like, so you and I, dude, like when we were kicking it, like I remember growing up in Seattle, if you don't do it in the rain, you don't do it. Like it was always raining. And so you'd have like the wet pants, you know, like with the water like coming up the back of your pant leg, and dude, you were just always drenched, you know, skateboarding in the water sucked, but like if you wanted to go outside, you did it, right? And that was like the cost of doing it.
We literally would go out in the winter time while it was snowing and like light fires and survive like homeless people just to like not be in the house. Like I'd just do anything that I could like not be in my house with my parents or like, you know, just sitting there. We would just be outside. We would go and shovel off the handball court and like play handball outside. And you like you put your hand like in your pocket in between. You're like, oh, it's like it's so cold and everything. You know, I mean, you know, just to be outside and be like connected with other kids and stuff like that. You know, I mean, I guess that's the weird part about this generation or about, I mean, everybody in general. It's not just kids, you know, with social media and everything, because you can kind of be connected with other people without ever leaving your room. You know what I mean? And if anything, you're connected with more people even than than you would be if you were just hanging out with 5 or 6 friends riding your bikes or whatever, you know?
The thing is, the relationships aren't the same, though.
No.
You know what I mean? And for them being like children growing up right now, I feel like they take that as like, yo, this is what a friendship is, right? Like this is how you connect with somebody else. But you and I see the value of the face-to-face conversations, right? And sometimes you guys don't get along and you guys are like right next to each other. And so I can't just say fuck you online and hang up.
Yeah.
Like I have to confront the situation or tell you how I feel. Or, you know, if you're boys, sometimes you get punched in the fucking mouth, you know? And that's what it is. But I think a lot of it too, with everything being done online, is people feel comfortable exercising like things that they wouldn't say in front of somebody else normally. You know what I mean? And
well, I think that's the thing is if you're with somebody, it forces you to deal with that situation, or it forces you to confront that situation in a way that you couldn't just write it off. Like, you know, it reminds me like people driving by in traffic is how the internet is. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like the way you act in your car is not the way that you'd act with me standing in the line at the grocery store. Yeah. That's for sure. You know what I mean? So
I picture the kid that like, you know, tells somebody he's a piece of shit and hangs up on him, you know, or like jumps offline is the same kid that was like, I'm taking my ball and I'm going home.
Yeah, exactly.
Remember they're like,
exactly.
take the toy and like dip out. You're like, bro.
Yeah, come on, man.
Well, the rest of us are still here, dude. Like just because you don't want to kick it. Like, come on, man.
Exactly, man. Yeah, I mean, it's just such a different vibe the way that the kids are nowadays. I mean, it's also technology driven, you know. I mean, like I said, I didn't have a cell phone until I want to say I was maybe 13, 14, you know. So, and nobody really had a cell phone before that even, you know. I think my mom had one for work like a year before that when they had like a battery on the front like that, you know, kind of thing, and an antenna you had to pull out and shit.
I remember those
You know
things.
what I mean? Kind of deal. You know, so I mean, it wasn't like something, I guess that's the thing is nowadays people always have access to you. You know, it's kind of, you kind of miss that freedom of being like, hey, I'm going to the store. So like if something comes up, I won't know about it until I come home and check the voicemail on my answering machine. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or whatever it is.
It was much more carefree, right? Like you were able to actually decompress. But I feel like, because everybody can access you at any point in time, work or family or whatever, there's probably like an element of stress that never leaves. Yeah. Right? Like this, I don't want to say stress, but maybe like an anxiety, you know, that's carried with you because at any point in time, anything could happen, you know, and thank God, like the dude just bailed me out of a lot of situations, you know, and been a great help. Also, there's an element that, like you're saying, you don't possess that freedom and just that carelessness of being a kid and just being able to go out and do your thing. And, you know, if I'm with you, man, then this moment is for me and you and that's it, bro. Nobody else is even involved in this, you know?
Exactly.
And nothing was recorded, bro. Like if I don't say shit and you don't say shit, then it never really happened.
Yeah, exactly.
But now everything is on blast. Everything's like time stamped, you know? And I feel like that's really tough too. Cause as a kid, man, they do stupid shit and they say stupid shit. And they don't even end up like being that person later on in life, but because it's recorded or data, you know, is you know, kind of time stamped, then it can be used as leverage against them at any point in time in the future. And I feel bad, man, because it's tough to hold a kid accountable because they're kids, man. Like that's how they find out what to and not to do as an adult. Yeah,
and it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure, I would think, to like live that way, you know, that you're like you said, I mean, it's probably a little bit different for girls and guys, you know, obviously. But I mean, that to not be able to like post the right picture as a girl, then you're not going to get like the same social, you know, gratification as if you were, you know.
Not enough likes.
Yeah, so not enough likes.
Now all of a sudden, now all of a sudden your self-confidence and your self-worth, you know, you internalize it, you overthink it, and all of a sudden you're like,
yeah,
that's tough, man. Yeah, just things have changed. Do you notice a big difference with, you know, the way that you think you would raise your kids if you were still back in New York versus the way that you're raising them out here? I mean, obviously Arizona's probably less populated than New York, you know, there's probably less, you know, chaos and just, you know, the hustle and bustle as New York State. I mean, do you think that if you guys were back in New York, you'd have different approach to your parenting style or?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, obviously there's certain safeties and precautions that you have to take just depending on where you live. I mean, luckily for me right now, luckily and because of hard work, I live in a pretty good neighborhood. Yeah. So I'm not super worried about it. I mean, a much better neighborhood than I grew up when I was younger, you know. You come out to the park and you see you know, some needles or, you know, broken bottles and crap like that. You know, my kids don't have to grow up with that. But I guess it's one of those conundrums that you have to deal with as a parent, because you want your kids to be like you, right? You know, but I don't want my kids to have to go through the shit I went through to be like me, if that makes sense, you know? So I don't know. I look at it and I'm glad that I'm here there's certain things that I miss about New York that my kids will never get to experience, you know?
Yeah.
Like I said, like riding the train or, you know, pulling up and getting a slice of pizza and walking around.
Bodegas and corner stores like that,
Bodegas and
man.
corner stores and stuff like that. I mean, everything out here is pretty, what's the word, franchisey, and you know, I mean, if you're not going to like QT, you know what I mean? So there's not like the you know, little guy's corner store that you can only get that kind of sandwich at that one spot. You know, it's you kind of lose some of the culture and like the authenticity of it, you know. But
I like being able to go to like a little like, you know, Benny's bagel shop, and it's just one. That's it. There's one. You know, I know that there's a Carnegie Deli out there, and I was working for a restaurant before, and they used to literally ship, you know, cheesecakes from Carnegie Deli out here to Arizona because they were like, you know, the owner was from New York, and he's like, yo, you'll never get a cheesecake like this.
Yeah, and I guess I mean, I go through the same thing right now with my business because you don't want to lose quality as you expand, and I feel like it's almost impossible, especially in like a for food industry, like kind of service like that. I mean, you know, without pre-packaging the sauce, how do you open 30 pizza shops? You know what I mean? Or whatever. You know, it doesn't make any sense to grow, but then lose the quality. And I think you don't have as many like family-owned little mom and pop shops. You know, I think it's really competitive too in New York in comparison to here. If you don't have a cheaper slice of pizza at a better price than the guy down the block, then you're not going to get any customers. You know, it's almost like certain companies have kind of cornered the market. You know, and been able to say, hey, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it, or whatever. You know, but yeah, I mean, going back to the parenting aspect of it, I mean, New York's rough, but I mean, just like here, you have your rough neighborhoods and you got your good neighborhoods. You know, I mean, I'm pretty open with my kids. I give them a lot of freedom. I kind of like let them do almost whatever they want, as long as it's not like a dumb decision that's going to hurt them or, you know, endanger them in any way. But I mean, I'm glad I'm not there. I'm glad I'm not raising my kids in the same environment that I grew up in. You know?
Yeah. How do you buy street smarts, right? Like you have to go through it. Like you have to experience it. You have to put yourself in a stupid situation and be across town and get abandoned, or your ride dips, or the train stops running, or there's no bus, and you have to like bite the bullet and walk your ass home in the dark on a school night or something like that, right? And then, you know, you deal with, you know, a frantic parent when you walk in the door and you're like,
you know,
I learned.
You know what's actually crazy? So this just happened, and it actually goes back to like that. You can't buy street smarts, right? And again, I'm glad that my kids don't have to grow up in an environment, but where my warehouse is for our business is in kind of like a shitty neighborhood. So it's over. I mean, for all my Arizona listeners, basically, it's like in the middle of Phoenix off of the 17 and Dunlap, which is like a notoriously bad neighborhood. There's like nothing but like homeless people with whole caravans of shopping carts and, you know, zombies on the corner and, you know, stuff like that. So the other day we were pretty slow and Nico was at the office. And I came and I was like, hey, man, what's going on? How are you guys doing? Like, what are you doing today? He's like, man, I just was going for a walk, but it was pretty sketchy, man. I'm like, well, where'd you go for a walk? He goes, that river that's like behind our office. And I'm like, you walked in the canal? You were in the canal? And he's like, yeah. There was like a homeless guy back there with like a cart. He started calling me a pussy and stuff. And I'm like, dude, why were you even back there? He's like, I don't know. I thought it was like a nice like scenic river. I'm like, no, that's like where the homeless people live. They live back there, dude. He's like, yeah, I noticed that. There was a lot of trash. He's like, I didn't notice why at first, but then I realized that they're living under the trash. I'm like, yeah, dude, like what's going through your brain? He's like, I don't know. And I mean, it's just so funny to like think that, you know, they just have no concept of like that there's any bad in the world. And again, I'm glad that I'm able to like provide that safe environment for them. But yeah, it does make you a little concerned at times that I'm like, dude, you're like so close to getting stabbed by some homeless guy or something.
That's crazy, because I remember as a kid, like as a teen, like, bro, I remember getting into scuffles with adults.
Oh,
you know what I mean? And so I think kids naturally feel like they have to respond to an adult, right? Like, regardless, if you're an adult, you're an authority, right? And so if an adult's telling the kid, hey, come here, they kind of like look around. If there's nobody there to say, fuck that guy, you don't have to go over there. Like, who's this fool?
Yeah.
He's probably up to no good. Like, why would a strange grown-up be calling you, telling you to come here, right? For a kid, they're just like, well, he's older than me. They're probably like, you know, some type of an authority. Like, I have to go over there. Whereas you and I, you know, as a youth or Nico's age, you know, if somebody was like saying something, I'm like, yo, bro, like this is either about to go down this way or it's about to go down this way.
Oh, yeah.
But I also wouldn't put myself in that situation because, you know, I would probably be a little bit more wise to be like, yo, fuck that. I'm not even going out there.
Yeah. And like I said, I mean, that's just something that you can't teach. Again, I don't want my kids to have to learn it the
He'll
hard
probably
way.
know it now.
You know, yeah. Well, yeah. No, I think it did like kind of change his perspective on. He's like, you know, not every neighborhood, because I mean he does that all the time. Even in our neighborhood, he'll go for walks late at night and stuff like that. Well, he did actually have a little issue that kind of taught him a little bit of a life lesson, because he was at Walmart and he's like, oh, I forgot my bike lock, so I'll just lean the bike against the bike rack in the front of Walmart, and some crackhead or somebody stole his bike. And he's like, man, I was only in there for 5 seconds to get headphones. And I'm like, yeah, that's how quick it happens. He's like,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Didn't think that somebody'd be lurking, waiting for you, you know, kind of thing.
Somebody was on the opposite side of town, needed to get home, bro.
Yeah.
Needed better transportation.
Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting. You still got family back in New York?
Yeah, my whole family's there. I'm the only Arizona despot at this point.
Yeah, man. You guys go back? You take the kids back? Have they like visited?
So not really.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. We go back. I've gone back maybe like 3 times in 10 years.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't like it there. It's one of those things. I'm fine there and I'm fine navigating, but now that I have like other people that rely on me, and I have my kids, and I have, Nora even, and everybody, like, it's one thing to ride the train by yourself, you know, especially
it's
one thing
another
to
being
ride
responsible for 4
yeah,
people.
or like ride the train with like some of your homies, and you're like, okay, like what's the worst that could happen? You know what I mean? And now you're like, okay, well, the worst that could happen. I mean, you see all the craziness that's going on over there, that they're like, you know, and it's always been like that, you know, you have some like homeless person that throws pee on you or something, or like, you know, or they stab some lady, or push some lady on the I just seen one that they pushed a guy onto the train tracks, like a crazy homeless person or something, right when the train was coming, and the guy died. And, you know, you have to be worried about that. You have to be worried about other people, you know, besides you, kind of.
The reality is you never know what's going to happen, right? Like, you got to be ready. What do they think of New York, like, with their experiences back? Do they like it? Is it just like, oh, quick family, or like any type of exploration or anything?
No, I mean, not really. Nico probably got to see more of it than Michaela did. We went back when Nico was maybe like 8 or 9.
Oh, okay.
And so he got to do like Coney Island. He got to go
cool.
to Nathan's and eat hot dogs. And, you know, we went and got pizza, and we're in the city, like in Manhattan and stuff by Central Park. And, you know, that was pretty cool. The last couple of times we went for like nothing good. It was like funerals and like, you know, gloomy type shit, you know, so it's not really like, you know, we're going there to have a good time or anything, you know, so.
We've gone back to Seattle a couple times, man. Nothing really like extensive, and certainly not to explore. It's the same thing. Like, you dip in, you dip out. You know, I avoid some people. I say what's up to like a couple, you know, it's like, you know, there's 3 or 4 and that's about it. But there's times too where like I'll have conversations with the girls where, like, you know, storytelling. I'm like, oh, and this one time we were here and we were doing this and we went to this skate park, and there's a part of me that like wants to show them that stuff and be like, yo, this is the house I was telling you about, or like, yo, this is the place over here.
Yeah.
You know, where you know, this scuffle happened or whatever. But some things are best left memories, man. And most of that stuff, who knows if it even still exists? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, things evolve and change, and it's crazy. Like, for a long time, I was like, man, this is so weird raising a family here in Arizona. But honestly, like, it's been a blessing, bro, like, being here, because I feel like I've really been able to not necessarily like shield them from certain elements of life, but like provide a different upbringing for them. You know what I mean?
No, I definitely feel like shielding. I mean, I don't even mind using that word, because like, I mean, you got to. I guess it's like one of those things, you know, you want to provide your kids a better life than you had, kind of thing. I mean, you know, even if maybe it results in them being a little coddled or whatever you want to call it, you know, you got to do what you got to do. I mean, looking back on it, by the time that I was Nico's age, I want to say more than 10 of my friends had passed away at that time. I had you know, at least 8 or 9 funerals I've been to where I'm like burying somebody that I like spent the night at their house, and I knew their mom, and you know what I mean? We grew up together, and I mean, so I don't ever want them to have to experience that kind of life. I mean, when I was young and when I moved out here, I just thought that that's how everybody's life was. Yeah. You know, so I wasn't really able to realize that that's not how everybody lives. Not everybody lives in an environment that's dangerous like that, or that's you know, unsafe, or you know, where everybody's kind of like involved in crime or involved in bad stuff. You know, so I'm glad that I'm here. And I don't really have like any reservations or aspirations to like go back and show them anything about my childhood, because like all of it was pretty shitty, you know, for what it was worth. You know, I remember all of us sitting around and, you know, drinking or whatever we were doing when we were like, and all being like, how can we get out of here, kind of thing. And everybody would be talking about what they're going to do and how they're going to get out of here and what they're going to become. And, going to go on a cross country motorcycle trip. I'm going to go on this. I'm going to join the army. And, you look back on it and a lot of those people are dead or they're still there doing the same shit, sitting behind the same store saying that they're going to get out of there, And
how many people you think made it up?
So I just recently found out this is actually a trip. So my half brother Drew, who's my mom's son from her second marriage, he's actually the same age as Nico, blended family kind of shit, right? Mm-hmm. But so he's over there and he's actually a great kid, like much better kid than I was. She did better the second time around for sure, but really super level-headed, and he's involved with like a church group, and actually one of the guys who's like the lead in the church group is somebody that knows me, and like one of me and Anthony's good friends, growing up and stuff. Yeah. But he's the only person that I've heard like good news about. Like every time that I hear somebody that they go, oh, you remember that? You remember John that we grew up with? And I'm like, oh yeah, how's he doing? Oh, he died in 2023 overdose. I'm like, oh, okay, that's good to know. I'm like,
it's tough hearing that, man.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I mean, no good news. I had a picture that I used to have, that when me and Nora first got together, I don't remember where it is now, but it was like me and 3 or 4 friends, and I'm the only one that's alive.
Man, that's crazy, huh?
Yeah.
All drugs or violence of
drugs
some sort.
Or violence. Actually, I have one of them is in. I mean, I don't know how much time he's got left, but he was doing like 20 years in prison. So,
how do you think that affects a kid, man? Like like you're trepidatious about having strong relationships for fearing that they're just going to end. Like,
yeah, I mean, I guess it's definitely made me like more standoffish. To what's the word? To build a relationship, or not only that too, but I mean, I guess it kind of is when you grow up in an environment like that, it's really hard for you to build a camaraderie with a new person that didn't go through all the same shit that you went through with those people. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that happened to me a lot when I went to college the first time, that it was really hard for me to like make connections with people. Cause I'm like, you didn't grow up on my block and I don't know you. And you know what I mean? Like, so I'm like, I mean, I'll kick it with you a little bit, but I'm not going to tell you what I'm feeling and like what's going on inside my head, bro. And you kind of just want to keep that separate. I mean, it's funny. I mean, you're talking now and you give me like a whole like spiel in the beginning of like how close we are, but there was definitely like maybe 3 or 4 years in the beginning of us knowing each other that it would just be like, what's up?
Yeah, it's
and
always surface
like
level.
Standing like across the room, and you're just like, hey, how's work? Good. How's the weather? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's because you don't want to. Or maybe it's just like one of those like psychological things that you don't want to build that connection with another person because you're so used to everybody that is gone or whatever the deal is. Or
gonna betray you, man.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that too. Like the broken home thing, man. Like we carry that with us. Like I'm not a therapist or any of that shit, but I have to think it has something to do with that because at a young age, the people that you're supposed to trust the most turn their back on you, and break up your home and any type of consistency that know. And so for me, I was like, yo, fuck both of these guys, mom and dad. Like I'm out. Like obviously it's every man for himself.
Oh yeah.
Right. And so that's why I spent so much time kind of like out on the street and being, more of like a independent roamer. But I feel like it is hard to confide in people and put yourself out there, and be vulnerable and let your guard down because our experience says that we already know how this is going to turn out. You know what I mean? Yeah. And the only people that you're willing to do that with are the people that were doing the dumb shit that you went through, as a youth with. It's like that Goodwill Hunting. Remember that? Where he's just like, why this guy will do anything for these people? Because these people would do anything for him, right?
Yeah.
They would take a fucking bat to your head.
Yeah, and I guess it's hard to like build that kind of trust with somebody, I feel like by now we've gone through so many things that's how I feel about you, that I consider you one of the homies, you know what Absolutely. I mean? So that's just kind of like, but it takes a long time for you to like build that kind of relationship. And not everybody's like that, but I guess also I think we resonate with each other because we have, even though we're different in age and from different parts of the country, and you have a lot of similarities in the way that you grew up, in the way that I grew up. And it's almost like I don't know, I don't want to like talk bad about anybody that didn't have a rough life, you know what I mean? Or anything like that. It's not like I think less of people, but it's really hard for me to connect to somebody that doesn't what's the
Understand
word?
the struggle,
yeah,
man.
that doesn't understand the things that I went through. You know what I mean? So, and not only that, I think that happened to me a lot when I was younger and like just starting to like become a young adult and go out in the world and meet people. Shit, you tell a story that like me and you might laugh over, and me and you might say like, oh man, that's the way that goes, and that's a fight. And then you're like telling that to like, you know, some kid that's in the yacht club with his dad and never had like anything bad ever happen to him, and you're like, yeah, so we had this fight and this guy's nose got broken, and you look over and then they're like, horrified. Horrified. Yeah, they're like, holy crap, like, what is this guy talking about? You know what I mean? And you're like, wow, like, again, that's when I started to realize that I'm like, man, everybody's life wasn't like my life, you know?
Very much so. Very much so. You know, it's, I think probably one of the most impactful things is so we had that. But look at us now. Like, look at the way that we're raising our children, right? Like, we've made the necessary changes and we continue to push to be the best version of ourselves, right? Because even though we went through that stuff, like, that's not how I behave now. That's not how you behave now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, our actions are different. And I think what's most for me to applaud us is that, hey man, we're actively trying to be the better person here. We're actively trying to pursue, be a part of our kids' lives and be a good role model and provide guidance and stability and direction. Like, we talk to our kids, we communicate with our kids. I'm open with our kids, like I display emotion and I apologize and, display empathy and stuff. Like, all the things that I don't necessarily recall receiving from my parents are the things that are important to me because I want to be a good foundation for them. You know what I mean? I want to inspire them to come back home when they don't have to, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I want to be a part of their life forever. And I mean, you know what it's like, man. Like, there's times when parents will call and they're like, ugh, I don't want to talk. I'm going to skip that family event. I don't want that for us. I don't want that for our kids. You know what I mean? I want our kids to want to be a part of our life.
Yeah, and I guess I already see it. I already see it sometimes with Nico. Like I said, he's just a really level-headed kid too. But there's a lot of times that he just wants to kick it at home with us. And like, sometimes he'll be like, he'll get a phone call and he'll be like, oh, my friends are going to hang out. I'm like, oh, you're going out? He's like, nah, I just don't feel like it, and to be able to like provide a home environment and like, that's so comfortable and that the kids don't want to go out. And, that's how I was. I would be like, I'd rather sleep on a dirty dog piss couch at like some other person's house and their mom smokes cigarettes inside, than be at my own house, dude.
Yeah,
dude, you know what I mean?
Sure.
We would go and sleep outside rather than be at home. You know what I mean? So I don't want to provide that environment for my kids. Honestly, we're really open and honest with our kids. You guys are the same, as far as I can see. And I think you have to have like that open mind and that honesty. As soon as you start like trying to put your kids in a box and say, hey, this is what you need to do and this is how you have to do it and you should say this and feel this way. That's when you, like you were saying, don't tell somebody what to do, ask them, because as soon as you start trying to push the kid and hold them down, then that's when they want to run away.
Drive a wedge between you guys in a relationship.
Exactly.
So Nico's Mexican. He looks Mexican.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. How does that? What do you call it? Is it like a Mexican American or Chicano or whatever?
I think it's Chicano.
Yeah,
you're Mexican and born in America.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah. But raising a Hispanic kid, do you feel like have you ever been exposed to like racism or anything like that, or feel like you have to navigate like certain situations differently with him because of his race or anything?
Honestly, no. Luckily where we live in Arizona, it's not like anything different. There's a very big Hispanic population, out here. Sometimes I feel like the minority, just depending on where we're at, like what part of town or whatever, you know what I mean? No, honestly, luckily he hasn't had any issues or anything like that. He did actually get to experience that a little bit, because he switched high schools for 1 year. Yeah. And he went to, I think he switched to like a Scottsdale school district for 1 year, and he was like making joke about it that he's like, man, I'm the only brown kid in like one of the classes. You know what I mean?
And it was like predominantly white?
Yeah, predominantly white kids, you know what I mean? Yeah. And everything like that. And I was like, huh, yeah, it's so weird to like see that perspective, because all of his little friends growing up, they're all like mixed backgrounds or, some kind of like Hispanic heritage, as far as I can tell. So to see him kind of like go into that situation and feel a little uncomfortable, it was kind of weird for him to have to experience that, Yeah,
it's interesting. Most of his friends now, like Hispanic, black, white, just all mix?
Just kind of like a mixture. It's like kind of, kind of a little bit of everything. I think he even has like one friend that's Muslim, or something like that.
Keratin too.
Oh yeah, exactly. Which is pretty cool. That's kind of how I grew up too. New York is like a melting pot, so it's not like, I don't see like any difference in the people or anything like
It's
that.
the same. Yeah. Seattle, dude. Like, there was like a couple black kids, couple Hispanics, couple Asians, couple white kids,
Yeah.
just as long as we had the same interest, man, like that's just, we just got down like that,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely had I definitely had one of my homies was Korean when I was growing up, and, a couple black friends, couple, I don't know, Dominican or Puerto Rican or something. I can't,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's interesting too, like raising the kids out here, man. Just I see the biggest difference in their desire to like get out there and try new shit, man. Like they're so comfortable just kind of being complacent and kicking it and doing the same routine day in and day out. How do you think we can push the kids to get out there and try new shit and be courageous and be a little more independent and try new stuff?
Yeah, so I do that. I do that a lot with Nico. Like I said, him and Michaela are kind of like polar opposites.
Yeah.
So even since he was little, he's been a little more shy, And we used to do that. I remember at Red Robin when he was probably 9. He's young enough that he still wanted a balloon. So he had to be, maybe less than 10 for sure.
Yeah.
But he wanted to get a balloon. He's like, hey, get me a balloon. I'm like, go ask her for the balloon. And I remember it took him like 15 minutes to get the confidence up to go get the balloon, but
That's
then he
so
finally
funny.
did.
Yeah.
He finally did and went and got it. You know what I mean? But I feel like that's something I've always been pushing him to kind of be more confident. And even now he makes jokes about it because he goes to work with us and he's like, man, that last job, that lady had a lot of questions. I'm like, oh, you love that when they want to talk to you the whole time, huh?
Yeah.
He's like, no, I hate it. I hate that. I'm like, I know, but he's still able to get through it now, you know? And I think if you're not, kind of forcing your kids to go through stuff that they're uncomfortable with, then, you're doing them a disservice. I don't want to like do everything for them so that this way they never are able to like order something on their own or go out.
Interact in society.
But I mean, I think, I think I want him to like have new experiences and I want my daughter to have new experiences, but it's a fine line because you don't want to
within this circle.
Yeah,
right
exactly.
here.
Exactly.
I do that same thing too with Carradine. Like I'll put her on like little missions, little tasks, things that I know that are like pretty achievable, but also will challenge her in certain ways, and she's worked with me at 3 different restaurants now. And one of her biggest fears was like talking to adults, like it's tough, man, as a kid because, adults, they have the confidence and can be a little more assertive and kind of be assholes, depending on the situation. And so now like it's crazy, like watching her confidence and independence kind of start to flourish because she's been through it, she's experienced it. And there's been a couple of different situations where she, maybe she needed a bailout or she had a question or didn't have the answer. But I think like challenging her to work at an early age and get that exposure has been super beneficial. I know that, getting a driver's license was really important. There's a lot of kids that are her age that, aren't driving or haven't even done like the schooling and stuff. And that was important to us because it definitely like signifies like independence and freedom when you're able to kind of like move about and do your own thing and you don't necessarily have to like answer to somebody else. You know what I mean? If I want to go to the store, I can just get in the car and go to the store.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to try to empower her that way. It was important to me and wifey to make sure that we like provide her that growth. And there was like some reservations, where I'm like, hey, let's go drive. And she's like, I'm like, no, bro, like let's go, let's do it. And now I think she's really grateful for it because she looks at other kids who aren't driving and don't have a desire to drive. And I think for her, it's like, man, like, I don't understand why they don't want this. Like, this is awesome.
Yeah. Well, again, I don't know if it's, I don't know what it is that's different, but I just feel like this generation of kids in comparison to maybe my generation or your generation is a little bit more standoffish, I don't know. I'm sure that you were similar to me. I remember my dad had gotten a new car and he left me a stick shift Hyundai that had like way too many miles on it. And I didn't know how to drive stick shift and I didn't even have a license yet. And he's like, when you get your license next year, you can drive this car, but don't drive it now. It's like he didn't even get down the block and I was trying to drive the car.
Hell yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And the same thing that you just said that you're like, hey, you want to go drive? I remember asking Nico, hey, you want to go like, do some driving lessons? He's like, maybe next weekend. I'm kind of like not really feeling. And I'm like, dude, I don't even remember having that feeling. I remember being there counting the days until I was 16 that I could go and, oh man, I'm going to be out in the car. I'm going to be on my own. I'm, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, I remember kind of like having to trick them into learning to drive, because we were kind of going around the PV college, doing like the parking lot route, you know, do a little circle around the parking lot, little circle around the parking lot, right? And then I'm like, you feel confident to like go on the street? He's like, no, I just don't feel confident. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, just go make a left right here and make a right here. He's like, wait a second, I'm at the stoplight. This is the street. And I'm like, well, that's it. We're on the street, bud. And he drove us all the way home from the college, and he was perfectly, I mean, directional, everything. He's checking his mirrors. He's doing everything. But sometimes it's like, you know, you have to give the kid the confidence, you know?
Yeah, that's cool.
I think that when I grew up, I had to find my confidence on my own, you know, going through whatever situations I went through. So it's cool that I'm able to like help my kids and provide my kids with that confidence. To go out and be like confident enough. Oh, I'm going to drive the car now on the road. I remember like asking him, do you feel comfortable doing it? He's like, no. So for 2 or 3 weeks in a row, we weren't going out on the road. I'm like, this is it. I'm going to just pull the trigger on it. You know what I mean?
Dude, it's crazy when you take that left-hand turn and you're on the on-ramp getting on the freeway, man. You're just like, oh my God, that's nuts. Yeah, man. I think that's our mission, dude. Like, I love the way that you dad. I love the way that you get down, man. Like, empowering the kids and providing guidance and opportunity for them. That's huge, man. I respect you, man. I love what you do. I'm excited to be a part of it, man. I love seeing your kids grow and flourish, man. And obviously, you know, I think the world of both your children, man. So appreciate you coming down for the show, man.
Yeah,
before we wrap it up, dude, I want to talk a little bit about your business, because it's family owned, operated. You've got, you know, Nora as a part of it. Nico's a part of it already, man. And I think it's important.
Michaela helps too. She's been helping Nora scan receipts for our taxes and do stuff like that. Hey, you got to start them young.
I love it, man. It's awesome. And
she's trying to earn that Roblox. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that involvement too, right? Like, you feel like you're a part of it, man. That's cool, man, and inspiring, dude. Like, I'm sure she's pumped to do that. Like, the kids used to love going around work with me and, you know, counting money or setting up tables or whatever.
Oh,
It was always really cool, man. So your company, Down to Earth Demolition, has actually helped me in a couple different situations, man. I've had like a couple different like chaotic things that have happened in my house, you know, flooding and, you know, broken water pipes and such. So you guys have helped me on a personal level, but from a business standpoint, man, talk a little bit about your brand, what you guys are doing, man, how people might be able to utilize your brand here. And
so I mean, basically, you know, Down to Earth Demolition. We came up with the name, me and Nora, and it's a little bit of a play on words, because
which is amazing. Like, I love it. You know, the branding is awesome.
You know, it's like, hey, we're cool, but we'll also tear the place up, kind of thing. You know, but yeah, I mean, we're a family owned, locally operated business. Right now we're getting a little bit bigger in the restoration space, taking on more individual projects. Before this, we were primarily like a subcontractor for other bigger companies and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, that's what we really pride ourselves on. That's what I see it as, because that's why I like restoration, because what we're doing right now is mostly insurance stuff. But I mean, you don't necessarily have to have insurance to call us. You know, if you have like a water damage, a fire damage, any kind of issue in your house, or just general like remodels and stuff like that, we help out with as well. But I do always feel like I'm helping people. You know, I think that's the part about this business that I really like. It's not like when you're doing remodels or when you're doing, you know, specifically new build construction or something where you're trying to sell somebody, you're trying to upcharge them and sell them and do, hey, you know what you should do is get these nicer doors or whatever. I'm trying to like put people's lives back together, if that makes sense. You know, most of the time when I come in, people are distraught. They're like up to their, you know, ankles in water or, you know, sewage, or their house just burned down or something like that. So, you know, it actually makes me feel good to be able to help somebody in their time of need. And again, I mean, that's where we really pride ourselves in, and we're a little bit better than some of the bigger companies, is that, you know, you can get lost in some of the bigger companies. I worked for a couple bigger companies that are going to remain nameless, but my employee number was like 12 digits long, you know? So that just lets you know, I mean, you know, if you're a job number there, I mean, it's like 14, 16, 18 digits long. So, I mean, you're just a number, you're just another check, you're just another job on the board for them for the thousands of jobs that they've done. So, I mean, the way that we see it is that we really like to treat every customer like they're our only customer, you know?
That's what's up, man. I mean, I love the mantra, dude. You guys definitely helped me, and I remember you guys actually being in my kitchen on the day after Thanksgiving on Black Friday, jackhammering and helping me with water damage, man. It was a fucking mess. It was catastrophic. Down to Earth Demolition helped me out, made me feel comfortable, and I hope I was your only customer because, damn, it was the day after Thanksgiving. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you, Mike, for joining me, bro. I appreciate it. Thanks for having the conversation, man. You know what to do. Like, subscribe, tell a friend, talk about the show. If there's something you want us to talk about in the future, drop a comment. Would love to hear from you. Until next time, keep it real. Thank you for joining us on the Dope Dad Podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to share it with a friend. You can support the show by giving a like, sharing, and subscribing, and you can find us on YouTube or wherever you're getting your podcast fix. If there's content you'd like to hear more of, please leave a comment. We'll make sure we try to get it in the show. Continue to tune in for more dope guests and real conversation.